Welcome to Fireside, where we sit down with successful founders every month in order to capture their stories, insights, and lessons learned along the way. Hit the follow button and subscribe to our newsletter for more. Link in the description. I was inviting everybody to the event. I would say that you went from being a school teacher in Japan to quitting that and starting an online business that made you about $10 million in just a few years. And then you shut that down and you came to Lisbon to start a cafe.
Yeah.
And so in this case, I would get two reactions. The first one was always excitement. And the second one was always surprise. Is that something you get as well when you talk about your path?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of surprise of like, why shut it down and why make that choice to move abroad? And at the time, I didn't even know that I was going to start a cafe or a bookstore. I was like on a sabbatical for a year, figuring life out. Mm-hmm. But I just knew that I couldn't go back to the old way that I was running my business before. So a lot of surprise.
So you kind of shut it down without a plan B.
Correct. Okay. Yeah.
We'll get to that in a bit. But I'm curious to know, when you were growing up as a kid, which one of these professions were you thinking you were going to end up doing?
I thought I was going to be a veterinarian. I love animals and I assumed I would get into that, but I also always wanted to write a book. So it kind of makes sense now. For those that don't know, I have a bookstore and cafe in Lisbon called Fable. And so it kind of is for that dream, I suppose. One day I'll write a book, but yeah, veterinarian or author was on my list.
Okay. But you haven't done. But the book is
you're like, you haven't done either.
No, but the book is still a possibility.
Yeah, the book is going to happen one day.
What was it like growing up? Tell us about, have you like had jobs or?
Yeah.
What kind of kid were you?
I was kind of like a dreamy kid. I loved to do things outside. I played a lot with insects. Like I just like to be outside in nature and collecting bugs. I remember my grandmother had this desk. And I played by myself a lot because I was at home alone with my grandma. And I would take bugs from her garden and like put them in the desk and make little terrariums. And I kind of just thought that nobody knew about them. But then all of the bugs started crawling out of the desk around the room that they were in. So that was kind of what I did in my spare time as a kid, was just play outside and, tinker with things and write and do art. I was like a creative, dreamy little kid.
Were you very good at school?
I was good at school in the sense that my parents didn't worry about me in school, but I never really loved academics. Like my thing was always extracurricular things like clubs and sports and that kind of stuff. I loved to be part of organizations and communities, but yeah, I did well enough in school that they didn't mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you became a school teacher in Japan. So
yeah.
Why and what happened in between?
Yeah, after university, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do for a living. And I always loved teaching. I was like also the kid who was making lesson plans for my little brother, teaching him how to read and do math and things like that. So I loved teaching. That's just something that's been innate in me. And so I thought I'll move abroad. And I'd never lived abroad before. I'd never been to Japan. And I had this sort of interest in Asian culture. The university I went to was about 50% Asian. And so I was learning a lot about different Asian cultures. A lot of my friends are also Asian. And so I just thought maybe I'll go to Asia. And I applied to a program in Japan and South Korea and went to Japan for a few years and was a teacher there, which was, I think, a big reason why I started a business. Because when I was a teacher, I remember I applied for a job at this school. And in the interview, you have to submit like these activities that you would do and lesson plans and things that make you a good teacher. And I worked really hard on them and I submitted all the things and they were like, wow, you're going to be a great teacher. And these are such good ideas. And then I was hired. And then after I was hired, they're like, I was telling them, like, what about the ideas and all the things? And when can we get started? And they're like, oh, we don't do that. Like, we don't have money for that. You need to teach them how to take tests. And I felt really let down. And really, really bummed that there was no possibility for expansion and to have creative ideas and implement them. So that's kind of around when I started looking at what other possibilities there might be for a career.
It was too restrictive.
Yeah, it was too restrictive. And I don't like that.
It's many of the complaints about any corporate job doesn't have to just be school teaching, or usually that you can't really go outside of the path or the budget or all of that.
Yeah, 100%.
So you decided to quit school teaching, or did you start a side project, or
So when
how
I
did
was
that
a
work?
school teacher, I worked at a few different schools. And one of them, it was a challenging place to work because it was a brand new international school in Tokyo. And so a lot of work fell on the teachers. Like there were a lot of things to do, but it was also really positive because I was the graphic designer and I built the website and I was also creating curriculum. I was like 23. I hope their kids had a good education. And I was like designing the after school programs. And so there was a lot of things that I had my hands in. And one of them was graphic and web design. And I was realizing that something that was a hobby of mine for a long time, I was actually pretty good at. And so at the time when I was starting to feel like I was ready to move back to the States, I wasn't sure that I wanted to stay there forever. And I knew I wanted to have something that was my own. I couldn't imagine working at a company after the experiences that I'd had there. And so I started a freelance graphic design business and did that for a couple of years. And that was kind of like my launching point into starting businesses and working for myself.
Mm-hmm. So you started doing graphic design freelancing, or did you already have something online going on related to that?
I think a lot of businesses and ideas are born from a place of struggle. And when I was living in Japan, I had worked, I felt like really hard to build community and to learn the language and assimilate into the culture. And I still felt like I didn't belong there though. Like it didn't feel like I'd ever belong. It's kind of the feeling that I had. And so I was really craving community, and a path that I felt to create community was to start something online. So I just started a blog, and this was like back in the day when blogging was more of a thing. But I started a blog and I was just sharing creative projects and things that I was working on and graphic design projects. And the blog started growing a lot. Like people were reading it and leaving comments, and I was connecting with people around the world. And so that was kind of the point where I realized that maybe there's something here and I could offer services or start a business around this community. And that's what happened. So yeah.
It's interesting because when you missed community, you thought of going online.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't think of creating a physical community, or?
I kind of did. I put on like a mini festival in Japan that was like musicians and photography and artists displaying their work. So I tried, and I started like a meetup group for people to walk their dogs. I got a dog when I lived there. So I was like, doing my best, but I still felt like there was something that would always be missing for me. And so I did go online, and
that something missing was from the physical community or just in general?
I think it was a sense of belonging that I didn't know I'd ever reach there. Yeah. And that's a real core thing for me, is feeling like I belong in a place. It's why when I came to Lisbon, I wasn't meant to live here, but I loved it because I felt that so quickly coming to Lisbon and feeling that sense of belonging here.
You were supposed to do a road trip in Europe and you ended up staying here?
Yeah, exactly. I had a whole plan. Everything was booked and planned out for 6 months. This was my first stop, and I just canceled the rest of the trip and stayed here. Got a visa and just made this my home.
Lisbon has a thing.
I feel like it's the Bermuda Triangle of Europe, because people come here and then they just never leave. You get stuck.
Yeah. And another way of seeing it is that it's still underrated, even with all the people that came to in the last few years.
Yeah.
I feel like compared to Spain, it still has a little preserved aspect.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started blogging. Things started to get some traction. You started getting ideas about turning it into a business. Mm-hmm. Is that how it went?
Yeah, I feel like I didn't really have the vision of I'm going to make this business and these are all the things that are going to happen. It was more of like, I need to make some money so that I can get out of the job that I'm not really enjoying anymore and do something else. And so it started really small and with like one client and not really making enough to survive, but kind of feeling like if I had more time and quit my job, then I would be able to make it happen. So yeah, there wasn't really the vision for anything. It kind of just snowballed from there, but
stumbled into it.
I stumbled into it. Yeah, that's what I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that before from you. But okay, so you started taking it step by step. Did you create an online course first? Did you start finding more clients first?
Yeah.
What happened next?
Yeah, so I I did the graphic and web design for a couple of years, and as I was doing that, I was also doing things like growing an email list and an online community, and just building kind of engagement with people online. And from there, I realized that I had discovered certain tactics that were working really well for me for growing this graphic design business that I had. And I created an online course. At the time, it was about Pinterest marketing, like how to use Pinterest to grow a business. And nobody had created a course on that yet. And this was like 2015, where online courses were still a bit of a thing that you had to explain what it was. It wasn't something that a lot of people knew about yet. So I created that course, and that was my gateway into the online education world, and eventually stopped doing graphic design shortly after that and veered full steam into online courses and coaching and retreats.
Okay. I'm curious to know, like, you started you created the course first without having any clients, but you had some community online because of the blogging.
Yeah.
How did you start getting the first sales, for example, or what made you think this is a good time to quit freelancing?
So the thing that I did that moved the needle right away was I had this course. I hadn't even created it yet. I knew what I wanted to put in it, but I thought I'm going to try selling it and see if anybody wants it first. And I did an online class, like a free class, where I taught a few things. And at the end, I told people about this paid course that I was creating and would be released soon. And I thought maybe I'll get a few sales. And I think from that online class, I made like $7,000 or $8,000, which for me at the time felt like this is absolutely life-changing. And then over the span of 30 days, I think I opened the course for 30 days, the enrollment. At the end of it, it was around $30,000 that came in, which was like how much I had made in 1 year as a teacher, and felt pretty like wild to me to make that. And that's when I decided to stop doing the web design and just fully move into online courses.
So you didn't really have issues getting that first client, because that's usually like a big issue.
I think my issue was more with getting the first graphic design, web design client. Like I made a janky website for a church, and, like I was willing to take whatever client I could get at the time. I wanted to work more with people like creative entrepreneurs, but it was like a church and, I don't know, like somebody who was starting a blog. So in the very beginning, I kind of would take whatever clients I could find.
Mm-hmm. But even like when you started selling the courses, you didn't have an issue. It was immediately $7,000 to $8,000.
Because I had spent the previous year writing lots of blog articles, teaching online, giving away a lot of pretty much everything that was working for me in business for free. I just said, this is working for me, so you can try it if you'd like to. And I'd grown an email list from that, which now I feel that email marketing is one of the most important things that you could do if you have a business. And I think by the time I launched that course, I had around 8,000 subscribers. And I was sending weekly, if not more frequently, emails. And so people were starting to understand that I liked teaching this stuff and that I had things that might be helpful for them.
So it's because you already built a community that you were able to not start from scratch, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of startups stay for like a year, 2, sometimes 3, not getting a customer.
Yeah.
A paid customer first. That phase can last forever, but
yeah.
Okay, so it starts to get some traction. We went from 7-8K to about 30,000 after 30 days.
Yeah.
Okay. And from there on, it went full steam, it snowballed, or did you give it a push?
Pretty much. I think at that point, I became a bit obsessed with learning about online marketing and online education and courses, and just how to grow the business, and also what other things I could teach in courses. So I started creating other online courses. I would collaborate with other teachers on topics that they knew a lot about, and just started making, I think looking back now, I added more and more complexity to it, like more things that obviously resulted in bigger sales. But it was like you learn a new thing and then you add it, and then you learn a new thing and then you add it. And after a while, it's all of these things that it feels, for me, it felt heavy.
Heavy?
Yeah.
Like a lot of work, or?
Yeah, just a lot of complexity. By the end of it, I think I was craving a lot of simplicity and stillness, and yeah.
But in between, so we'll get to that in a bit, but I'm curious to know what happened between, when it started growing and when you were like, I want to give up. So what happened in between? Did you hire people? Did you use paid ads, or how was what did you do?
All of the above. Yeah. So first I started creating more products that I knew people were interested in, engaging a lot with my community. So continuing to write weekly, if not more frequent, emails. We had a lot of blog posts. We also had contributors who were writing articles on the blog as well. We were doing ads to lead people to the online courses. I started expanding a team. So the first real hire that was really helpful for me was a project manager. I'm more of I like the details, but I love the ideas even more. And it was hard for me to manage everything myself. So hired a project manager, which revolutionized my life, I feel like. And then started hiring other people like a graphic designer, copywriter, finance person, a COO for operations, people who did customer service. We also eventually had other coaches and teachers who would teach in the programs as well. So it started expanding, and that's really important too. I think if you're creating a business, there's a few key areas to focus on, in my opinion. One is to have a really good product. So to know that people are, getting value from whatever it is that you do or sell, and to have good marketing. And I think that you don't need to focus so much on like trying to do everything well. Like you don't need to have amazing social media and email marketing and whatever else there is, YouTube and all of the different channels. I think if you could be really good at one thing and just nail that, then that's enough. And then to have an amazing team, like to really find high quality people and to not skimp on the team as well. When you're at that stage of hiring people, like if you have a team that you can trust, then that changes everything. And then also the mindset that you have around business too. And maybe we could talk more about that as well. But I think that's really important to the success of how a business goes. It's like how your mind and how you think about things, whether you're more of an optimist or a pessimist, and how that shows up in your business too.
Which one were you?
I'm definitely an optimist.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know how much I'm jumping around.
Go ahead. It's perfect.
I started a cafe bookstore here, and I didn't know if I would enjoy doing that because I've never worked in a cafe or a bookstore. And so I found some owners of other cafes in Lisbon, and I did like a quick call with them. I don't even know why they did a call with me. I think I just messaged them, or a friend of a friend was like, oh, here, this person owns this cafe. And so I did calls with a few people just to see, like, do you like this? What is it like to own a cafe? And every single one of them said, I wouldn't do it. And because it's stressful and you need to find a good team because you can't trust people, and a lot of negativity around what it's like to own something like this. And I understand too, because it can be a challenging business. There's a lot of moving pieces, but I freaking love it. And I feel like if you go into whatever business you have, there's going to be challenges, but if you can find the beauty in them and you can see a problem and go straight to a solution instead of like getting so stuck in the mud of difficulty, then it can be really fun. And I think that that's honestly the most important thing, in my opinion. Everything else will fall into place, because from that place of having that kind of mindset, everything else becomes possible. And yeah.
Challenge is one of the ways one of the motivations that drive people to achieve or overachieve anyway. Mm-hmm. It's one of the sources of meaning as well. But I was curious, when you were doing your online business and it started to work well, you had a big challenge there. You had to maintain it, you had to grow it, you had to manage all these people. Was that challenge not driving you enough, or was it too much of a challenge, or what happened?
I think what it felt like for me was I liked the challenge. Like I love learning things. And so at first it was really fun to constantly be learning something new and to have this ceiling that felt so far away of things I got to learn in the industry that I was in. But I think there's also a difference between a challenge because something's difficult and a challenge because something's not aligned anymore with what your truth is. And I started to get to that place where something in the business that I had felt challenging because it wasn't part of my truth. And because I was pushing a business that didn't actually resonate with me anymore. And I kind of, like we talked about, I stumbled into it. It wasn't something that I had this big vision for, and that I thought that's the business I'm going to start. It was something I created a small online course for, and it did well. And I realized I'm kind of good at this, or I kind of enjoy this. So I'm just going to keep doing it. And then it did really well. And so I found myself in this place of like, I've stumbled into something and I like it, but I also think there's something missing for me. I'm still the kid that played with bugs back in the day, and having a big company I don't know if it felt like a source of joy for me at that point.
So was the size of the company and the complexity of it as well? And is it managing people as well? Or is it a lot of customer support? Which one?
I loved having a team, actually. I really like having teams, and community is one of my top values. I didn't do a lot of managing of the team at that point either, because we had a COO who did that. I think it was like, it was bumping into a friend and them saying, "Oh, I saw your Facebook ad." And it would be a Facebook ad with like a video of me telling them about an online course or something like that. And feeling that deep feeling of that doesn't resonate with my soul anymore. And feeling that I'm putting out things into the world that they don't feel like me. And that was the biggest thing. It was, getting to a point where I wasn't excited about the content that I was teaching. A lot of it was around business and online marketing. And I was feeling like I was getting out of that space. Like I had interest in other things now that I wanted to talk about. So it kind of felt like an old version of myself that was perpetually online, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Did you ever wonder why you pushed that hard? And because you ended up having a burnout, correct? You'll tell us.
A couple times, yeah.
A couple times. So you'll tell us about that. And I'm also interested in knowing, why did you push that much? Were you trying to overachieve? Was there a goal? What was it?
Yeah. To answer that question, I think from when I was a teenager, I learned that if I achieve things and I'm good at stuff, then it results in love and validation. And so when I was a teenager or in college, I was like the leader or president or co-founder or whatever, lots of things, because I enjoy leading and I enjoy community, but I also at the time felt like I was getting a source of love, like that was something that made me feel belonging, like in a shadow way, right? Like we talked about belonging earlier from maybe a way that's more pure, but I think from there, that way it was a bit more of a shadow way of belonging, of using leadership as a way to feel like I matter.
Or like succeeding to get a reward type of thing and recognition.
Yeah, but the reward for me was, people...
Recognition.
Yeah,
social.
They're paying attention to me. They like me. That makes me feel like I belong or I matter. I think that was the driving force for a long time for me. And not even really knowing that was true, that was part of my story or childhood or, growing up. But I think I was also at the time when I had this business, like doing a lot of inner work to heal that part of myself too. And realizing that maybe I had made choices to continue expanding and growing this business for a purpose that didn't align with me anymore. It was like, can I source belonging from inside of myself or from close friendships or my community rather than a business or something that doesn't feel aligned? And so all of that was kind of like meshing together and making me feel like I needed to make a change.
And so that social recognition and reward type of wiring of your brain as a kid or teenager, did it kind of teach you that I should always do more? And did it make you change in a way? Or like, I'm curious to know why you push yourself so hard in the business related to the childhood thing that you just mentioned. Were you getting presents every time from the family, or is it just that people were cheering, or how was it exactly?
I love this. It's like therapy.
You knew what you were walking into.
I think like with my family, that was a big thing for them of how much money do you make or how successful are you? And coming from being a school teacher, where I think being a school teacher is fucking awesome and so important, but it wasn't like this thing that felt prestigious maybe to my family. And I think there was some driving force with that of wanting to fit into the mold, I guess, of what was expected of me. And there weren't like gifts or anything. It was more of, I'm proud of you, or you're doing a great job, things like that, for me at the time felt, it's actually funny. At the time it felt good at first. And then I realized that it actually didn't really matter to me. It was like, I'd worked so hard to hear that that my family's proud of me. And then when I heard it more and more, it was like, that actually wasn't the thing that I needed. I thought that was the thing I was supposed to be chasing this whole time. And it felt good. Like, that's nice. I appreciate that. But it didn't move me in the way that I thought it would. And that was actually like an awakening for me, because it showed me that if that's not the goal anymore, then I'm free to make my own goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's interesting because if you reward your kids, it gives a certain path and reaction. And if you don't reward your kids, it will give another path and reaction, which is not better. So it's like, as a parent, sometimes you're stuck in the middle trying to strike the right balance. So, but that's why I was interested in this.
And I also want to add an addendum that I feel like I love my parents, and I feel like they did a great job. Like, they did their best, and that was their values, and that's cool. And I appreciate it now, because I feel like, it led me to places that I'm happy I went to. And I'm glad that I don't necessarily crave that kind of attention anymore. But I think they did their absolute best and did a great job.
Yeah, it's actually childhood insecurities, or insecurities in general, are one of the drivers that make people achieve success or anything. It's a little unsettling, a little depressing too, because it essentially means you need trauma in order to achieve anything. Like the Lamborghini founder, for example, he got rejected from the Enzo Ferrari, from Ferrari's founder, after he went to him with an idea. And then he got really mad and went and created Lamborghini, the sports car. There's a lot of examples like that, where Steve Jobs had an issue too. He was abandoned as a kid from his biological parents, and yet they kept his biological sister, and he grew up knowing that.
Oh, wow.
So also Steve Jobs had this kind of drive that is driven by trauma as well.
Yeah. It's funny, like, being in entrepreneurial circles sometimes and talking about that. Like, I feel that pretty much everyone that's driven to build a business at first, until you are conscious of your deep why and deep understanding of yourself, at first it's often driven by some trauma or insecurity, feeling a need. Yeah.
Again, it's a little unsettling and false paradoxical, because we spend our lives trying to avoid trauma and stay happy. But it is a main driver if you want to achieve.
I think it's important. Yeah. And I also think, like, any relationship that you're in, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship or a family, like, those people things might come up. Like, you might get triggered by something, or you might have a disagreement with somebody, and you can use that as an opportunity to continue the wounding of, like, doing an old pattern or something like that. Or you could use it as an opportunity to grow together. And I think business is the exact same way. Like, things will come up as a business owner. Maybe you've got imposter syndrome, or you're afraid to put yourself out there, or afraid to be visible, like, afraid you're going to fail. There's so many things that can come up. And I think business gives us the chance to either continue down the same comfortable path of, like, I'm just going to not do those things because I'm afraid, or to face the trauma or the challenges and evolve into the next version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but there is a positive side as well. Alfred Adler, I think, famous psychologist, who studied this question a lot, and found out that there's mainly two drivers for achievers and successful people. So one is insecurities, childhood trauma, all of that. But the other one was a little brighter, which is just a purely altruistic motive. A lot of people want to start projects and succeed to do good to their customers, to their community, to society. So there is a second answer to that question, which is a little more positive, but good to know.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the business. You're burning out and you decide to stop. Did you think so you shut it down eventually, right? But did you think of delegating more? Did you think of selling the business? What was the chain of thought there?
So I eventually shut the business down at the end of 2021, but at the end of 2018, I was feeling really physically bad, like a lot of fatigue and just brain fog and just feeling like I don't feel like myself right now. And I did a lot of blood tests and all that kind of stuff. And my doctor was basically like, if you don't stop, then you're going to really hurt yourself. And so at that point, at the end of 2018, I took 6 months off, mostly off from the business. And that was kind of an experiment in what would it look like without me? Can we delegate to the rest of the team and have things continue expanding and growing? How does it feel to have this business? Because it was also under my name. I think it would have been a different experience if it was a business name, but to have it be your name and your face and your videos with you in it, it's a weird experience sometimes, especially if you're starting to feel disenchanted with something. And so when I came back, we started doing things a bit differently and running the business in a way that felt more aligned. Like I feel really proud of the things that we did and I enjoyed them. But I still got to a point where I felt like, I don't know about this anymore. And we did think about rebranding to a different name.
Mm-hmm.
Like we worked with an agency to create a new name. I thought about selling it, but it was very centered around me as the head teacher and coach. And so it just felt like too difficult at the time to do that. And so I thought I'm just going to walk away and do something else eventually. But the thing that still exists is having the community. So I still have like an email list that I can email if I have a new thing that I am working on. So it doesn't feel necessarily like the entire business is completely gone. It's like I shut down all the programs that we had, but I still have the community in case I wanted to get back into doing something else.
It is a very brave decision because, most people cannot reach that level of success. And you got there and you're like, okay, I'm done. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where the surprise I was telling you about, I was getting from most people is why would you shut down a business working so well? So at the height of it, how much revenue was it making and how big was the company?
Around 3 million per year.
Per year.
And in total was around 10.
Total existed lifetime of the business.
Which was around 5 years.
5 years, 10 million.
Yeah.
And how many employees at the height?
Probably around 10.
Okay.
And then contractors, people who,
Because it is extremely difficult to make something work that well. You can easily make something fail, right? Anybody can do that. But making something work that well requires a lot of things to come and align. Yeah. And so it's quite courageous and brave that you just decided this is it.
It took a long time to get to that point because I had so much resistance to letting it go. It was like, how am I going to survive? I don't have a plan B. I've never really worked in a corporate job and I cannot imagine doing that. I don't have another business idea right now. I just knew it's really hard for me to do something if my soul and my why is not aligned with it. Anything, like not even just a business, but anything. And if my soul and my why is aligned with something, I'm so committed and so loyal to things. But if I'm not, then I just don't know how to pretend for very long. And I kind of wish I could because it would have been nice to just have it running in the background, But I think a lot of it was also because it used my name in photos, videos. I really realized that I'm more of a background person. Like I prefer to be a bit more behind the scenes. And so that was a big driver for me. But it took a couple of years. It wasn't like an impulsive decision of, I'm just going to shut it down today. Like, let's go.
And go road trip in Europe.
Yeah. Definitely not that. It took a long time for me to get the courage to say, I'm scared to shut this down, but I know what my truth is and I need to trust it.
So what is that truth? You mentioned your why earlier. What is your why? Yeah. Are you able to articulate it in a...
I think my why, to put it super simply, is to just keep following the flow of what feels true for me. Even if it's difficult, even if what comes up that feels true is shutting down a business that was successful or, anything. And it sounds a bit ambiguous because it kind of is in a way. It's, But I think we also deny whatever feels true sometimes. Like we're afraid to trust that what you're feeling is valid, and trust that it's going to be okay, even if you don't really have a plan for something. But my why is also centered around things like community and creativity, evolution and growth. Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds very true to me. So the truth, you mentioned the truth. Yes, a lot of people, well, most people want the truth, but also most people do not want to hear the truth because sometimes it goes against what makes sense or what you want to feel or a lot of things. So it's quite brave again that you just followed it, even though it meant shutting down a $10 million business.
I think there's a lot of trust that goes into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think you have to have a lot of trust in life, like in whatever you want to call it, the flow of life. Like you need to trust it in order to feel okay with the decisions that you make. Because I didn't know what to expect, but I just trusted that things are going to work out okay. Like one day I'm going to find another idea that I feel excited to work on. Like that's just going to happen. And one day, probably, right? And one day things are going to feel different than they felt at that moment. I knew that. Like life just sort of goes like this. And if you can just trust that if you're down here, you can trust that one day it's going to be back up here, especially if you trust yourself and you follow what feels true and not just what other people want from you or what society says. That's a big one for me, is like what society says, and constantly trying to be mindful of, am I doing something because of what society says or because of what I genuinely desire to create for my life? That's all truth for me. And yeah, I'm just trusting.
Which is directly linked to the childhood when you said you'd get recognition for doing something. And
yeah.
Okay, so we shut down the business.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next?
I love that you've got a smile on your face. Shut it down.
I mean, yeah, it's impressive. So you decided to go on a road trip. First stop was Lisbon, is that it?
That was actually towards the end. So I was on a sabbatical for about a year and a half. Well, technically 2.5 years before I started working on Fable. But I started by basically just traveling a lot, like, but not just traveling just to sightsee, more like traveling to go to retreats or plant medicine ceremonies or visiting friends around the world, but doing things that brought me back to who I am. Because for a while I was starting to get to this place of forgetting myself, like forgetting what kinds of things I enjoyed or what kinds of decisions Melyssa would make, and just feeling out of touch with myself. And so I dabbled a lot more in different creative passions, and with the intention of coming back to like, what is it that I want? Who am I as a person? And that I was reading one of my journals from that time period last night, just to kind of refresh myself on what that experience was like. This was like end of 2021 end of 2021 to, beginning of 2022. No, it was, anyways, I'm getting all the timings in my head. And I was reading this journal. It was like a thick journal. And I read the last page, and it was like thanking the journal for holding me through the last 2 months. And I was like, that was only 2 months. There's so many things that happened and so many realizations and so much feeling lost, but also found at the same time. And so there was a lot of just reconnecting with myself in different ways. And then I moved to Lisbon. You're right. It was 6 months after I closed the business. And then a year later, started working on Fable.
Fable.
Yeah.
So how's that going? Tell us more about Fable.
Yeah, Fable's going really well. Yeah.
Does it require your involvement on a daily basis?
On a daily basis, no. So I've been spending the last couple of months in Amsterdam, actually. I'm like working on being in both places because I love both cities. And while I've been gone, like I came to Fable a few days ago and hadn't been there for a couple months. And when I walked in, it was like everything was perfect. It just looked like I don't really need to be there.
Sounds like a great team.
It's an amazing team. Yeah, they truly are amazing. And it's going really well. I think that's the number one reason why I'm able to step away from it more, is the team handles the cafe. We've got a restaurant component and then the bookstore. And then we have an events manager for events we do in the evenings. So it's all just running smoothly, and it feels really good too.
Nice. I love it, by the way. I love the concept of cafe and bookstore at the same time. You did a really good job of that.
Thank you.
Was that inspired by a cafe you've known before, or?
No, it was inspired by when I got to Lisbon, there wasn't an English bookstore. And I would go to, there was one, I forget the name of it, but there was one that had like a shelf of English books, but it was like Shakespeare, Catcher in the Rye, and all the books you'd read if you were having an existential crisis. And I was like, let's read something else. So that was part of wanting to start the English bookstore component. And then the cafe was just a lot of food that I was sort of craving from California, actually. A lot of California-esque cuisine. I was craving things that were like organic and made from lots of different plants and Honest Greens, which is like right there. Honest Greens was something that felt like the kind of food that I wanted to make, but there weren't a lot of other places that had that style of food. And so I just thought, let's add that. Just put it in the bucket of what we're going to sell. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. What is next for Melyssa before we open up the discussion?
Well, I launched a new coaching brand a couple of weeks ago. It's called Future Current, which is kind of full circle for me because that was the name we were considering rebranding to, and I never really liked it, and now I feel connected to it. So it's called Future Current, but it's a coaching brand where I'm just going to work with a few clients, and it's really helping visionaries who are in metamorphosis. So I realized, kind of like we were talking about, that being in that place of not knowing what's next, but knowing that a new identity was coming, like I was in the cocoon for a while, is such a juicy place to be in life. Like there's so much possibility that can come from that, but there's also so much holding back and so much staying in your comfort zone if you choose that. So working with entrepreneurs now who are in that kind of metamorphosis phase and want to make the leap into something else, whether it's a business or something, some other part of their life or identity they're stepping into. And but keeping it small and simple.
Like small community.
Yeah.
Okay, intimate. Yeah. Is it online yet?
It is online. Yeah, futurecurrent.io.
Or did you start marketing it? Do you already have customers?
I didn't market it, but I have 2 clients so far.
There you go.
Yeah.
Remember that first client? It's very hard to get.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you, Melyssa. Thank you very much. I hope you worked hard and got your questions ready. We'll have the mic. Questions? Aviva?
Hi, I'm Aviva. Thanks for sharing your story. I was wondering, when you arrive in Lisbon, the fact that you decided to create a space to have the coffee, even though there were so many challenges that were shared by other owners, was it something that was an evidence for you? Because clearly you have been in very different space before. So was it? What were the things that you were absolutely sure of for your next project?
Like before I had the idea of the cafe bookstore.
When you start thinking about the bookstore, what were the things that you were? Because I think when you're in this phase in between 2 projects, there are so many options that are being offered, and clearly it seems that you are not quite afraid of jumping in for new opportunities. So I'm just wondering, what were after your trip and your sabbatical, what was the absolute truth, the thing that you knew you had to do?
I think for me, the biggest one was something that felt creative. Like I really like the boots on the ground kind of creativity where you're getting in the weeds and doing a lot of things yourself. I knew I wanted to be surrounded by creativity. And the project itself, Fable, felt really creative when I was working on it because it was like designing what the space looked like and working with a chef to design the menu and then curating all the books. Like so many pieces of it felt really creative. And that was something I was missing from the last business that I had, where it was starting to feel so streamlined that it was losing that kind of grassroots creativity. And then also community. So we do a lot of events at Fable too, which is my favorite part of the whole project. And I've realized now in retrospect that every business I've started, the thing that has made it, I think, successful is community. Like that's the through line. That's the thing that I feel like every entrepreneur or person has something that they're good at. And that's the thing that I care the most about. So I knew that I wanted this project to have that too. Yeah.
Anybody else? Plenty.
Hi, thank you for sharing that. Do you feel like if you hadn't had the previous company, that Fable stand up on its own two feet as a business in its own right, financially?
I probably would have taken a loan to do that, but yeah. Do you mean like if I didn't have the funds from the last business to invest into this one?
Yeah, well, obviously it's quite, like you said, it's quite a risky space to get into from all the recommendations you got from other owners. So would it allow you to live the life that you lead or did lead before, just in its own right?
Yeah, like just if I was starting from scratch, basically. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I feel like if you have good support and you know how to do things without wasting money as well, then that's important. But absolutely, I think probably most of the businesses in Lisbon that you see, like cafes and whatnot, are coming from scratch, right? Or if you've got partners that you can partner up with to work on it together and get different strengths on the team, then that helps too. But yeah, definitely. So kind of knowing like what's your wheelhouse and then who do you need to find in order to fill in the blanks of what you're missing. Yeah. Oh, are you looking to start something?
I just moved here from the States, so my business is very US centric, but I think obviously, you had huge success with the previous business, so it's more difficult for me to get my head around such a small business, but it feels like it's more aligned with you, and therefore your financial goals are probably very different from what they were previously.
Yeah. And I think I always felt like Fable was going to be a stopping point on the way to something. I feel like I'll have lots of careers in my life, lots of businesses and things. Yeah.
Love it.
Melyssa, thank you so much. You're very inspiring, truly.
Thank you.
You mentioned that you started as a school teacher, right? With a salary, and then you became a multi-million-dollar entrepreneur. So I'm wondering, did you have to go through some changing limiting beliefs, transformation in terms of how you deserve abundance, how you deserve to now have all this company, a team that you manage? How was that transformation internally, and how did that manifest then in your business?
Such a good question. Absolutely. Like when I started my first business, I think I was 23 or 24, and now I'm 35. And so it's huge change that's, oh my gosh, I feel like a completely different person. And so much of that showed up in my business too, where I think before I was the insecurities or the imposter syndrome or the feeling like what I do isn't good enough, or like looking to other people of maybe I need to do it that way. That was a big thing for me. And I think for a lot of people of kind of looking to other people's papers to see what are they doing and learning to keep my eyes on my own paper instead of feeling like I needed to emulate somebody else. And also beliefs around money and abundance too, and feeling like this feeling inside of like, do I deserve to have this much money, and what's the point of creating more of it? Like I started getting a bit nihilistic about life and business and money too. So there was a lot of change that I went through. I've worked with a lot of coaches, like personal development coaches and therapists over the years. I just love the idea of growth and feel like if there's something in my life that's a pattern or a trigger or an old thing that's not working for me, then I want to work with someone to work through that. And so I did a lot of that over the years, and I still do. But yeah, I think from probably 25 to 2030, I was on a big quest of breaking through all the old patterning and figuring out who I really am. Do you feel like you're on that path now? Yeah.
Someone in the back, to the left.
Hi, sorry about that. You mentioned that you had a really great team before, and you've got a really great team now. Could you talk just a little bit about how you created those teams and that process?
I start by looking for people who are really, really good at what they do. Like, that's just number one. Don't try to find the cheapest person to do a task. Try to find the best person that you can afford. And then I think a big part of it is just having deep empathy for people. Like, I know that we say that treating your team like a family is toxic, or that's kind of a thing now. But I think treating them like human beings. Like, if something's going on, I had a person in my last business where her grandmother passed away and she was really close to her. And so she wasn't even an employee. She was like a contractor, but we still paid her for a month so that she could go be with her grandma. And it's like, that was a big expense that we wouldn't have normally paid, but she matters to us. So we're going to do what we can. It doesn't always have to be monetary either. It can just be showing up for people in a way that feels really meaningful for them, where they feel more like a human and less like an employee. And I think that's the same for the cafe that I have now too. That's my biggest advice, is just like find amazing people and then treat them like you genuinely care about them, because you genuinely do. Yeah. And I mean, I could say other stuff like training and, but I think those things are obvious. I think the empathy is the most important. And if people feel like they are cared for, then they're going to show up for you and your business so much more than they would if they felt like they were just another number in the room. Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
Michelle.
Hi, I'm Mitch. I work in cybersecurity. My question evolves a bit about your image on the product.
The what?
Your image on your product.
Okay.
Were you ever worried about your digital identity, the security of your digital identity? Just a random question. And the second one, would you do it again from 2021 to 2025? A lot changed. So would you do it again?
Like use my image?
Yes, on your product.
At the time, I didn't really worry about things like that. And AI wasn't really a thing then either. So it wasn't a worry. There were some times when I had like online, we can call them stalkers, people sending not very nice things or completely copying my business, every single thing about it. And people thinking that was the real one, things like that. But I didn't really have much fear around using my image then. And would I do it now? I wouldn't do it now just because I don't really like that personally for myself anymore. But I hadn't really thought about it from a cybersecurity standpoint though.
But your image is already out there anyway.
Yeah, so. True. So
like most of us. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Eric.
Hi, this has been a great talk. I wanted to talk about the close of your last business. Talk about how you dissolved that team, maybe one of the things that you thought you did well in handling the closing of that business, and then one thing you think, I could have done that better.
That's a great question. I think the thing that I could have done better was, like, up until 2 weeks ago, our website and everything still existed. Like, you could go on the website and see all of our offerings. And I just, after it was closed to me, I kind of just left. I was like, peace. I'm not gonna try and dismantle it, because it felt really complex to me to dismantle all the email marketing funnels and the website and social media. So I just left it, and it wasn't operational, but I think I would have put more effort into doing it with grace in a way, like having it be more of a ceremonial ending where it wasn't something that it was an open loop. So I would have done that differently. And I think in terms of what I did well was going back maybe to one of the previous questions was I did have a team and they did mean a lot to me. And so I gave them a lot of notice. Like they could have left in the interim and I knew that, but I gave them maybe 4 to 6 months notice of like, I think this is something I'm going to do. And I gave them, just a lot of time to find something else and not feel like I was abandoning them and just doing that with as much care and love as I could. Yeah, and they were really supportive through that process too.
One last question.
Hi, I'm Eric. First, I would like to say congrats to Tarek and to the second home team for arranging this event. I hope it continues for a long time because we really need this in Lisbon. Great story, Melyssa. My question goes to the cafe. I'm investing in a cafe restaurant with my sister. I really don't want to. I don't like that business, by the way.
You really don't want to? Is that what
Yeah. But she wants to, and I want to support her.
Okay.
So, besides a great team, what kind of special advice would you give me in this business?
Yeah. Well, we're not going to get into the fact that you really don't want to, but and it's going to be a cafe restaurant? Yeah. And do you have somebody to make the menu? Or do you do that? Okay, cool. I would make sure the menu is really great. Staff, that you already sound like you know what you're doing there. I think the location of the space is important too. So Fable, for those who haven't been, it's very close to Precipice Flores and it's near Main Street, but it's off of the main street. And we're like just close enough that it's okay, that people still find us and it's close to lots of other places. But if we were further away, I think that would be quite challenging. So finding a good location. And I would do more. I found the space without really knowing that I wanted to do that. Like I found it before I was ready, essentially. I would map out your space that you find and have it really clear, work with a team that really knows what they're doing in terms of construction and have it just all ready before you get started. Like get as much ready before you get started. So you're not making it up on the fly because that's where expensive mistakes start to happen. And also when you're finding a space, this is more just logistical, but make sure that it's got the right licenses and it's outfitted in the right way for whatever it is that you need to do. There's things like smoke extractors you need to know about if you can have one or not if you're doing a restaurant. So things like that, I would probably work with a lawyer or a consultant who's in this field who can give you pointers on like what to look for in a space that you find. Yeah, hopefully that's not too many things.
Thank you. One last one. Okay.
If I may, one last question. If we can talk a little bit about the grind of, I don't know if you're the kind of person who would write a to-do list and then every day say, okay, I need to write half of my blog. The one from yesterday, I need to review before I publish it. Then when I publish it, I need to put it here. I need to do this, like have that checklist and then go through that day after day after day until you then have those 8,000 readers on your emails. And, then things start to sort of, you say, stumble into it. But there is a lot of deliberate work behind it. If you can talk a little bit about that grind.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many small pieces that go into it. It's hard to even know where to start, but I think it was like it's always starting with the first step, right? For me, and the first step was creating content, more like long form blog articles where I was teaching things. And so that was part of it. And then it was, let's hire contributors who are also going to write articles. So now we can publish things 5 days a week instead of just one. And then it was, maybe we can collect email addresses. So having like a lead magnet, like thing that gets people to opt into your email list, and then sending weekly emails and writing those. And it just continues to snowball. And then it's like you create a course and you're the one teaching it. And then you realize it would be better if you had a coach who could do weekly calls, who's answering questions for people who are in the course. And then you create a coaching program. And now it's, instead of a course, it's 6 months long. And you've got coaches who are there teaching the the coaching clients who are in the program, and now you're doing retreats. And so it's so many things layered on top of each other. And I'm not sure where you're at in your business, but I wouldn't think so much about like all the different layers that it could be, because that can be overwhelming and draining. I would just think of like, what's the next thing that I can add on top of this thing? And over time, it's going to become more complex in a way, but also more robust. And you'll have more opportunity with all the things that you add to it to make sales and get clients. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Okay.
Okay. Thank you again, Melyssa.
Thank you.